Nebraska Public Affairs is that's the name of my firm. I do lobbying, I do issue advocacy. Been in the campaign world. I did Hager's race this last time around. For Comptroller, worked for Comptroller Combs at one point, worked for Perry in 2010. So some of y'all we've met along the way in the campaign trail. So two of the issues we're here to talk about, which y'all obviously support, so you're kind of an easy group, I guess, is 2440, the ride sharing bill by Chris Patty, and the direct sales of 1653. I do not know what Hancock's bill number is for the Senate. It's really hard to keep track of bill numbers these times of year. So for Tesla, I'll just say, obviously we have an uphill agenda because we're up against a powerful special interest group, the auto dealers, and it's interesting. I can't ever remember the name of what this association is, so I always have to look at it. But I was watching a thing on the History Channel about Henry Ford, and he had an issue with the Association of Licensed Automobile Manufacturers. So whenever Henry Ford came out with the Model T, that association of car dealers had a patent on the car. So they sued him to stop him from making his Model T. He had to go to court to eventually, sell the Model T. I'm in no way comparing Elon Musk to Henry Ford. I'm just saying there's some parallels, and that Tesla is really trying to revolutionize the way customers purchase automobiles and how they interact with the company that sells them new cars through customer experience, warranty, anything you can think of with a product. It's kind of like Apple. If people had to go to a middleman to buy an iPhone, people would go nuts around everything to get a MacBook Air or anything else that they do. So for Tesla, it's pretty straightforward. Obviously I'm not a part of the company. I'm just helping with grassroots in Texas. But as an observer, Tesla thinks that we know more about our product and care more about your experience with our product than anyone else could. If something's wrong with the car, we want to help repair that because you are our best advocates. We don't have huge budgets being on TV and seeing us on billboards at the Super Bowl or anything else. Our customers being that advocate is the best thing we could possibly hope for. So the bills that are filed this session say that if you are an automobile manufacturer that has not sold into the dealer system in the state, you can sell up to 12 locations directly to the consumer. Right now, you can buy a Tesla on the internet if you want to, but when it gets here, you have to go to some kind of like a consignment center, help unwrap the car, and get it out yourself. It's really burdensome for us to be able to grow our footprint in Texas when you have all these type of things. When you go into a showroom, how much does the car cost? I'm sorry, sir, I can't talk about price. Well, what does that number say on the sticker that's right there on the car? You can read it, but I can't tell you what it says. Well, can I test drive one? Well, you have to get a permit and come back in a couple of days. Well, I want to test drive it now. Well, you can't. It doesn't make sense to me on why that wouldn't be the case. So under this bill, if it were to pass, theoretically, if the DeLorean Motor Company from Back to the Future started up again, they could sell direct, but anybody else is a part of that. So some would say, well, why can't the other auto dealers sell direct, or the manufacturers? You'd have to ask them. General Motors testified against our House bill. I don't know why they would not want to sell direct, but I'm not speaking for them. So you'd have to ask. So I think it's kind of a common sense issue. If y'all have questions.
I just want to mention at that hearing, General Motors was testifying about they want everyone to have to play by the same rules. The same General Motors that got the multi-billion-dollar bailout.
Well, and playing by the same rules, they've been around longer than we have. They sell a car, they sell an SUV, they sell freight, bigger type vehicles. We only sell the Model S. We're not the same type of company at all. So the same rule argument, I guess, for them, if they want to sell direct, then you don't want to. So some of the people up here have said, well, we're making a carve out or it's a special exception for you all. Well, if you are forcing us into their system, this bill, in my mind, improves upon the free market because we don't want to go through that system, so don't force us to do that. If GM wants to be fair, level playing field, then stay in the system. We're not asking you to come with us. If you don't want to, you don't have to. So that's the way I'm just one person. I don't have a vote in the legislative process. So
I was just pointing out that the people who got the bailout were asking for a level playing field.
And there's been some stuff that Tesla has had subsidies to. Their side will throw that out. We had a Department of Energy loan that we paid back. I think it was 2 years. I don't know the exact numbers. Like 2 years, a year early, 3 years, whatever the number was, with $18 million in interest. So Department of Energy loan is completely different than what you're talking about. But you know how people fight each other, they just throw things out there. So the sheet that y'all probably got at one point or another, if you want to be helpful, the way to do that kind of crazy that, Glenn Beck has been very vocal about this. America's Prosperity, Young Conservative Texas, you all, the SREC, I cannot believe that they passed this resolution. Tarrant County passed one. Denton, Collin, and Dallas are coming up in May. So if you know any executive committee members in those 3 counties, it's going to have to be a grassroots thing to be successful. Obviously, this session is still going, so there's opportunities for those bills to pass. But if they are not fortunate enough to get through the process, then I would assume that next session Tesla's going to try this again, and the more show of support from across the state to counter what we're up against here, the special interests that we're fighting, is going to be big. So y'all can all play a part of that. And then on ride sharing, similar deal with all of our friends, and the RNC has a petition on their website. I didn't really know about that until we started working together and I looked into that. Same kind of deal, the patchwork stuff at the local level. If somebody wants to do an app to connect a rider and a driver to do that, I don't understand why the taxi unions in the city would try to make it to where these people make it difficult for them to be in business. And so the bill right now, depending on how much you've read about it, there's a lot of nuances about background checks and fingerprinting, and then who's going to handle that. The cities get to do background checks, and the state get to, who's going to permit these companies, TNCs, Transportation Network Companies. So where they are now, past that committee's in the calendars committee now, basically what we would support is the state should not have patchwork regulations to where if I'm a driver in Austin and I want to, or let me flip it, if I'm in Houston and South by Southwest or any other random festival that happens in Austin now, I feel like there's one every other day now, a Houston driver to come over here because there's more people in town, does he have a permit in Austin? Is the insurance levels that he's supposed to carry different than Houston? It's just a complete mess. So this bill would basically level that out to where if you're a TNC in the state, whether you're in Nacogdoches or Austin or Waco or Fort Worth, there's predictability of what's happening. So you have to carry a certain level of insurance. The driver's been through a vetting process. All those type of things that have been fought and all towards the different turns at the local levels will just be smooth across the state. Again, that's a no-brainer to me also.
I was just wondering, on your Uber stuff, I didn't notice it in the resolution. Are you guys, on your talking points, you also covering drunk driving and being able to be, it being safer because it's so much cheaper, it's so much faster?
So when Adam's here, I get nervous because if I start using percentages, he'll fact check me. So Matt is a proponent of the Uber bill and have been in other states. And in Austin, their number was 20-something, 23, 24, 25. Let's just say in the 20s. It was a 20 number about the amount when Uber got here, and then the DWIs, they pinpointed it on a 12-month scale to where that was a decrease in DWI rates. So it definitely helps. And to be honest, if I'm out and I have a couple of glasses of wine with dinner and, Uber, I don't have to it just really removes all the barriers. And for those of us that have been out in any other city, when are you going to get a cab? You call it, where is it? Someone took my cab. It really, if you're a partier, this really does take every single excuse possible out of the book. I couldn't get a cab. Push the button, you got a car in 2 minutes. So there's another hand about Uber.
Yeah, in San Antonio, I believe our city council just passed a resolution or something against this. Would the law, if it were enacted, nullify what our city council passed against Uber?
So negotiating up here, again, is a lot about background checks, and I understand fingerprinting is one big piece. Houston has fingerprinting, San Antonio didn't, and they passed another ordinance on top of that to make Uber pull out. And I don't know enough about what the ordinance says, so I don't want to misspeak on what it said. So what's happening here, to your question, there are some stuff that are allowing cities to keep certain pieces, in terms of background checks of how far you're going to go for a driver to be driving in that city, and then those compromises have not been reached yet. But if this bill did pass, it would make it to where it's level to where, I assume that Uber would start operating in San Antonio again, because they know the set of regs that they're going to be dealing with moving forward.
So the city council couldn't say...
circumvent the state law, I don't know.
Saying.
I guess they could, and then there'd be a lawsuit or something, but wouldn't foresee that happening. Any other questions? Is Mrs. Colborne here? Sir.
Is it all right to ask a question about
Sure.
with Tesla, what's different than with what say Toyota has done? Another country right there starting to manufacture their vehicles within the state of Texas. Did they do something completely different than what
I was actually reading about this last night. There's a guy named Dan Freakin that owns Gulf State Toyota, and he's a distributor and a manufacturer. Or actually, I'm trying to think. He's a manufacturer. He has 3 car dealerships, and there was something passed in '99 that they worked to support, which removed distributor to where he could have 3 dealerships. It was some exception for him. So they are different, and it's not Toyota, the car company, but the guy that has the franchise in Texas. Which for me, it's kind of like you're opposing our bill that you're doing.
That's bringing us.
Yeah, bringing cars in, like manufacturing in San Antonio. But he's a specialty case. I mean, that's not happening anywhere else in our state. Questions about any other issues? I mean, I can just keep burning time if you need me to. What are some issues that y'all really care about? I mean, obviously you have a list, but
Actually,
I think it is.
I-
there's a list.
I was actually saying, could you, since you're here all the time lobbying on specific bills, obviously we're advocating on a variety of bills. Could you just talk about like best practices, kind of what's a good deep behind? Give us behind the scenes stuff, man. What's good?
How's hard stuff?
How can we actually be most effective if we don't have money to give people and if we don't have a huge.
I would say this, that to be effective in the legislative process, y'all have a great story to tell. I mean, you're a statewide group, you have chapters all across the state. So it's not that like money or all that kind of stuff. You're up and down, right? So let's use Stan Parker. If you're in the district and he's a Republican and you support him and you're going to block for him or help do phone banks or see him in his district and you come up here and you see him, he's going to immediately identify you more so than someone else that doesn't live in his district. I mean, that's the key thing. So if you live in a particular member's district, he or she cares more about your opinion than someone that does not. So to be effective, keeping up with your legislator, whether it's giving them encouragement if he or she does something well, like if they vote for a bill that you appreciate, just don't always complain if they don't know what you want. Also support them and give them encouragement if they take the right stand. That's a tough stand to take. And then as far as working offices, or working in cities for that matter, be very direct. This is why we're here this time of the year. It's very, very busy. So it's like, hi, so-and-so, I'm with the YRs. This is the bill number that we're working. And just try to, imagine if you were in their shoes and try to be as direct as possible. And what do you want them to do? What you like them to do? I want you to oppose this. I want you to support that. Here are 3 points why we're for it or why we're against it. And typically, you understand that these people are getting inundated all day about issues, and their time, they don't have so much time. I don't know if that's behind the scenes or not. It doesn't sound very fun. Any other thing in the back row? No? Good? All right. Well, thank you all for having me, and thank you all for supporting those 2 pretty market issues. We need as much help as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.